that's an abrupt ending.
Oh.
Welcome, everyone. Jamie's half face is here. We well, it's been one of those mornings, so strap in your seatbelt. Too bad Brian's not here. I know Brian's busy today, but he would enjoy
Oh, ow.
the madness that will most likely be ensuing here on today's episode of Pop Live. You might have heard from the
The groan.
exhalations. Jamie is in a lot of pain. We think that she either has an injured back, but most likely it is a kidney stone. So if anybody out there has any suggestions on how to alleviate kidney stone pain,
But
pass
I
it
don't
through.
want to take. So the other time when I took Advil, it totally killed the pain completely, and then I thought nothing was wrong. So then I'm afraid to take it again, and then I won't know that like
You're
bad
actually
things
yeah.
are happening, and I need to get surgery.
So if you have any suggestions as far as non like numbing things, but actually like, oh, you should be drinking like apple cider vinegar and it'll dissolve the kidney stone or
Well, I
whatever. I
know
don't know.
I gotta get. I need to eat more grapefruit and.
Yeah. But yeah, or even if you have like old
Oh,
remedies
wise
from yeah,
tales.
like oh, put
What
coconut
did
oil on
grandma
your
tell you
yeah.
to do?
But yeah, so if it's not that Jamie's drunk, she is actually in a lot of pain. In fact, let's get you over so we can
I
see you.
can't scooch. Wait. Oh.
That sounds awful.
Oh. Hey, take the baby.
Everybody say hello to Emmett. Hi. He's been
Oh.
worried about his mother,
Oh
so he's
God.
been staying with her. Um, but the show must go on, and we are actually very excited about today's episode because I think it'll be really helpful and useful to many of you, especially given the time frame of what's going on now. A lot of graduations are happening, and so I think a lot of organizations are going to be either planning or have planned to do use some kind of virtual element to broadcast their graduations. And we just did one this past Sunday for the UH School of Law, and so we thought we would share with you our experiences, mainly the things like to look out for that they're painful experiences for us, but hopefully they'll be beneficial for you. Just because we think, there's going to be a lot of organizations that are just going to be doing it themselves.
Yeah.
And there are just a few things that we didn't think in advance of possibly. And I don't think you would either. So if we could share with you some of those things, that could help. But just before we get started, off the top of your head, did you have any like initial thoughts or reactions to the idea of producing a virtual stream for graduation? Like as a viewer, did you think it was a pretty good experience? Because I think a lot of people are like they feel bad about doing. They of course prefer to do in person, but
What?
as far
The
as
question changed.
yeah, sorry, you just kept looking confused, so I thought maybe you didn't have an answer, so I changed the question.
Oh, so what do I think of it as a viewer? Like if I was watching it? Is that the question?
Yeah, unless you did have thoughts for the previous question, but
I don't remember what the previous question was. I was confused about what you were asking me.
okay. Well, why don't we just sum it all together? What are your thoughts, whether it's from the producer side or the viewer side, of virtual graduation ceremonies?
I think as a viewer, if I was watching it, I would have been pleasantly surprised because once we got our act together with the conferral of degrees part, I thought that was really awesome. And it was way more like I've been to graduations in person, and that part where the people where the students are walking up and getting their degrees is pretty like you're just waiting for your kid's name to be called, and it's like pretty repetitive and kind of boring.
Yeah.
But this time, like seeing like So all the students, I shouldn't call them kids, but
I think we're at the age where they're kids to us.
but some of them might be like second career. They might be
That's
older
true.
than us. But probably not older than us, maybe our same age. But anyway, so that part, my eye is so itchy and you might hear it squeaking. I'm sorry. But but that part with hi Linda.
Oh, Linda's so nice.
Oh.
She said to Jamie, hang in there.
So all of the students when they call their name, they had like 3 seconds on camera, and some of them had planned, like their family was there, and they're like mom put a lei on them, or like they did a cheers with their spouse, or it was just really cute.
Yeah.
And like seeing how happy not only the graduate was, but also their family and their like friends or whoever was on their little Zoom box with them. That was really, I didn't expect it to be so like heartwarming.
Yeah. Like even that they would have, like some of them had some kind of thing set up.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
all the balloons
Yeah,
behind
the scene.
them.
They had the dog with them.
Yeah.
That, glasses and were cheering and stuff.
It's so cute. And you never get that at a regular graduation.
The most I've ever seen at a in-person graduation is that like someone moonwalked across the stage. And as like much as it gets a reaction, you're also like, ooh, that's so unprofessional.
Yeah.
Like the real world is not going to take too kindly to you moonwalking on the stage. But yeah, the other thing that was conversely to that though was there are some people who didn't take the opportunity to do anything, and it looks so painfully awkward and uncomfortable because you had those who were like cheering, yay, and excited, and the others were just like,
there weren't too many though.
yeah,
Like so a lot of the ones that didn't plan anything, they just sat there and smiled, or like
some didn't smile, some just stared.
But there weren't that many that didn't at least smile.
Yeah, but
I can think of 2.
I always focus in on the awkward,
yeah.
But yeah, it was overwhelmingly entertaining.
Yeah, like
and
2 out of 100 something.
Yeah,
That's good.
anything else that you had thoughts on as far as it all went?
No.
So for the people, the school, and the I don't know, officials, the people in charge that were planning this, just to give you a background, like they were very nervous about this because it was such a big deal. Like especially for all of the students and their families, the graduation is like a big deal. And so the school
Especially
is
for law school,
yeah.
dude.
So the school is like really wanting this to come across well thought out, well prepared, and all that kind of stuff. They didn't want it to be, a bad light on, or be a damper on such a momentous occasion. So a lot of them, it was initially their plan to just produce it themselves, like just on a Zoom call. But even that got them, the reason why they reached out to us was because they were just very overwhelmed by the prospect of managing a Zoom of that magnitude, where there's going to be 100+ students on there that they had to figure out how to spotlight them as they're being named. Then they had about like 6 or 7 different speakers doing speeches. And it's just a whole lot of moving parts that was very overwhelming. Even for us, when we heard about it and we took over, it was overwhelming to us. So, and this is our profession. So like, I can't even imagine what it's like for someone who doesn't do this for a living.
Job.
Yeah. And it's just like, I'm usually running class, not
or organizing orientation.
Yeah. So, some of the things that we see in our experience that could be helpful to those of you who may, be running your own virtual ceremony and such, is to really consider things that you can do in advance to make the production of it smooth for you. So the first thing that was new to me that I was in charge of was we had all of the students on Zoom, over 100 students, and as the speaker is announcing their names, I was to spotlight the student and give them kind of like, a 3 to 4 second spotlight for everyone to see, and they can do that whole stuff that she's talking about. Well, unless you know exactly what every person looks like and that their names, sometimes, this group, they did a great job in that they had the correct names, and they actually put a number in advance so that you could see the order. So if the first name was John, it would be like 1 John such and such.
001.
Yeah.
John.
So that way it would list it alphabetically or numerically, I guess, in this case. So theoretically for me, I would just go down to the next person and switch spotlight. The problem with that I didn't anticipate is, one, I didn't know who these people were. So as the speaker is announcing a name, like I don't necessarily know, like, oh yes, that is John. Let me pull him up. And so there's a little bit of that, like, oh, do I have the right person up? And there was one time when the wrong person was up, but I didn't know.
Yeah.
But the speaker's like, okay, no, that's Angie. So I was like, oh, shoot. The other thing is, when you see the list of names, if someone turns their camera off, the list moves.
This is very important.
So here I was hovering my mouse cursor over the next person's name that I was to highlight next, and somebody turned their camera off and the whole list shifted and I lost it. And then I lost my place because I was like, well, were we on name number 23 or am I pulling up 23? And because I didn't know who was who or recognize their name or face, I'm like,
oh no,
I'm not sure. So when one time the speaker said, and Jamie Yamagata, and I was like, okay, I don't see her name because the names are all changed, and then I don't know what number she was because I think we're in the 20s, but I don't know which specific number. So I'm just like trying to find it, and it was really stressful. Like every time someone turned off their camera, bloop, the whole list of names shifted. So I think the way to avoid that is, one,
nobody turn off your camera.
Yeah, don't let people tell people they don't turn off their camera even after they're done being on screen.
So it was just on the Zoom call, it was only supposed to be the students.
Yeah. Now, if you have viewers as well, that's going to be a whole nother ball of wax.
So their plan was to go from Zoom and then stream it from Zoom to YouTube.
So that all of the viewers, like family members and friends, would watch the YouTube and not take up the Zoom.
Yeah.
Which is smart.
Yeah.
And so just the things we all didn't anticipate was that the logistics of it. And like for some reason, some of them, like even though they had the numbers and for the most part, they're all in order, there would be somebody at the bottom of the list. Like I see a missing 007. I'm like, where's 007? I have to scroll through 100 names, and then it was at the bottom for some unexplained reason. I don't know why.
Wow.
So that's something to be prepared for. So maybe having a little more just like room for in case that happens, like know that your MC or speaker can stall or something. And also the person running the spotlighting, it'd be preferred if there's someone who is familiar with the students.
At least a little bit.
Yeah. Because I had no idea.
Yeah.
And some of these names are like international, so I didn't even know if they're male or female because I hadn't recognized that name. And so I'd be like, I see a male there, and I'd be like, oh, I don't know if I'm on the right person or not. Turns out some of them were female. And then I was like, oh, I was on the wrong person. I think there's only 2 that I got messed up. But anyways, that's something to think about. And then we saw that there's a lot of connectivity issues that people had to troubleshoot. So one person from the school was managing the entire Zoom. They did like a pre-Zoom before the graduation ceremony. So that was just amongst the faculty and students. And that poor person who was running the Zoom room um, was getting calls on her phone, texts, emails, and in person people walking up going, so and so says they can't connect their camera and
Oh
stuff.
my goodness.
So they were like 20 minutes delayed
Holy
in
cow.
starting.
That's what happened? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And that same person was the one responsible for conveying to me
Oh, that's brutal.
some technical things so that we could start the graduation ceremony, which we were producing. So there was this poor person was just overwhelmed with troubleshooting from all these different angles. So it would have been better if they had certain people assigned to specific roles, like those who are having video connection, like are supposed to be speakers, you're in charge of that person. For students that are just watching, you're in charge of that.
Yeah.
One making announcements and updating the audience of like, hey, we got 5 minutes late. Everyone, please turn on your cameras or stuff like that.
Man.
Like, it's just the more you can assign, the better, because it's overwhelming. Like we have each other, and that's too much for us. And this poor person is one singular person. What else was there?
For the people that are speaking, to ask them about their internet before you decide that they can speak.
Oh yeah. So
or have them record.
Yeah. So we had I don't know, maybe like 6 or 8 people who were calling in virtually to do a speech. And we all, whenever we do these things and we have a virtual caller, we always do like a tech check, which is like days before we'll have them test their internet speed, make sure that they know how to log on properly and that we can hear them, all that stuff. And everyone that we checked with, their internet was fine or good enough, with the exception of a couple who during the check is like, ooh, it's a little spotty, and they were finding different parts of their house where maybe it's a little stronger and such. So we're just like crossing our fingers, because when it's that unstable, it's hard to predict, because even the time of day can affect how fast the internet speed is. And one thing that here's a few things from different scenarios that affected the internet speed. So we always suggest that people connect through Ethernet, a hardwire Ethernet connection, because that is the most consistent and strongest internet connection, especially when you're doing a video call, you're uploading, you're sending data, when usually upload speeds are far less fast than download speeds. So while you may be like, everything looks fine on my end, like I see all the Zoom chat going fine and videos are coming fine, how come no one can hear or see me? Because why am I pixelated to you guys? It's because they use two different, I guess, like lanes to get through. One is download and one is upload. So when you're checking your internet speed, if you're using like wireless, like Wi-Fi or a hotspot, so many different things can affect the speed of that connectivity if other devices are connected to it. And what we learned is somebody was using a hotspot, so it's through mobile. So when she tested it with us, no one was in her house, and it was like, oh, it's not bad. Well, when she was doing her speech, there's like
her family came.
Yeah, and they all have wireless cell phones on, and while they're not connected to the Wi-Fi, the hotspot is using what is that called? Data to connect. So it's almost like a 2-lane highway. Like when you're the only car in there, yeah, you can blaze through, but when there's traffic, it slows things down, right? So the idea is that there are so many people on wireless devices clogging up that wireless connection. So it's funny because all before her speech, we could see it. Her connection was decent, like, and then I theorized that her family members were not necessarily in the room with her because
they weren't. I could see them walking in the background.
There you go. But as soon as her time to go on to do her speech, they all come in the room because they want to be there for her. And it's like almost like that. You could start to see her picture getting pixelated, and we couldn't hear. And it's because all of these other
That was
wireless
so
devices.
sad.
Yeah. So it's so important to confirm and ensure that if you're going to have like virtual speakers or callers, that they confirm their internet speed and their connection. And if, like she was saying, have them pre-record it. If it seems really unstable or it's hard to predict, at least have a pre-recorded version
Yeah.
sent to someone so that if it doesn't work, we can go, oh, you know what? Sorry, her internet doesn't work, but she did send us a pre-recorded message.
Yeah.
And so we'll play that. So that at least they get to say what they
I
wanted
think
to.
the hard thing for us was because we were hired on last minute. So when you were able to do the tech check with her was like right before the event.
Yeah.
So we didn't really have time to make accommodations for once we found out that her internet was kind of spotty.
Yeah.
So I think when you're in the initial planning stages, at that point you should be asking people because she knew that her internet was an issue where her house is.
Mm-hmm.
So if as the planning committee, when you're deciding who's going to be speaking, at that point you ask them, "How's your internet?"
Yeah. And most
Yeah.
people will be like, oh, I don't know, that's pretty good. And they'll base that off of because they've been on Zoom calls before and such.
Yeah.
But the more accurate way to test that is just to go on
Do
a
a
Google
speed.
search and do speed test.
Google speed test.
And then it'll pull up a button where you can check your internet speed. And that's when you'll know. And ideally, what is I think at least,
The upload speed.
yeah, I want to say 15 megabits per second. If you can at least at minimum have consistent 15 megabits per second upload speed, that should be more than enough to handle a virtual call. I know like Spectrum, like business accounts, like for some reason, a lot of them have really slow upload speed capabilities. Like we've seen like at 5 megabits per
Yeah.
second, and that's really sketchy. So you can say like, oh, but I got Spectrum. It's the fastest. Like they say, it's the fastest internet speed. It might be the fastest download speed, but they don't for some reason care much about upload speed, and that's what
Yeah.
you need to care about.
But if you can find out early, do a speed test early, then you can make decisions. Like a lot of times, residential service will be better than business, so they could do their talk from home instead of at their office.
Yeah.
And you just have time to figure out. So you just gotta ask the question early.
Anything else that we learned from this? Those are like the main things that I remember.
I think if you're gonna have it so we had people come to the law school, and we had as many people as possible to come in to the law school and do their talk in person. And one thing to consider is a lot of people get caught up in watching it, and then they don't remember that they have to come on to do their talk. So have somebody assigned to make sure that people are ready.
Yeah, because in-person events, you see
You see it.
and then they go, and now here to present the next set of attendees,
Yeah.
Jamie Hong, and then she like walk up, and it's okay that we see one leave and one walk on, but
Yeah.
on video, it's so awkward where it's just like cricket, cricket. You want to come on? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, and if you have just one person assigned to be like have them kind of on deck and ready to go, that will save you a lot of headache and stress, and for the viewers it'll be much more smooth. And
You definitely need a team. Like having one person do all of those things is not gonna work.
which is this it's funny because when you do the in-person events, like you have a full-on team.
Yeah.
For some reason, every time we've seen the few times we've seen these like virtual events, it's just like one or two people.
Yeah.
And it's like, where did all of the other people that you usually get to rely on, like, where'd they go? And I think people have the misconception that it's like, well, what are they going to do? It's all done virtually. I just click the button.
Yeah.
But there's so much more to it still.
People are even less attentive when it's virtual, like all the people that you have to corral.
Mm-hmm.
So when they say it's like herding cats, herding those cats virtually is even worse because people are distracted and not paying attention. So like that, the people that produce the Tony Robbins events and stuff, so they started out as regular in-person event coordinators. They say their team that they use now for virtual events is bigger than their team that they used for in-person events.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't have thought that before getting into this, and now
yeah,
I'm like, oh yeah, totally.
yeah,
And but the thing about it is like it may sound like overwhelming right now, where it's almost like we're discouraging you from doing it, and that's not the case at all. In fact, I think a lot of people there's a lot to be said to doing things virtually. Like a lot of these students' families were able to attend the graduation. Like
what's the view count at now?
I don't know, the day after, which was I don't know 2 or 3 days ago, was like 2,500. So
Views.
yeah. So I mean, imagine all of these friends and family members across the globe
Yeah,
get to share in this momentous occasion. Even like here, like if a friend or a family member of mine, I wouldn't go to the graduation.
yeah,
But if it's like, hey, here's the link to seeing my commencement speech or seeing
yeah.
my name get read, I'm like, oh, I'll watch that. So I mean, I
You
think
can
there's
see
so much
me on
benefit.
camera.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's so many benefits to doing this virtually. We're just trying to stress the importance of having a plan and
Yeah.
thinking of these possible issues so that you don't suffer through that.
Oh, the other thing that I thought was that for the reading of the names to make time to do a rehearsal with the people reading the names.
And why is that?
Because it's confusing, I think,
For who?
for the people reading the names, what they're supposed to do and look
Mhm.
for. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think in theory, I just thought, oh, they're going to have a list of names and they walk up and they go and read off the names.
Like they would in person.
But what did we see that kind of wasn't?
I
Didn't
think they were just a little confused at first about timing, like when do I read the next name and what to look at. I think they didn't know where to look to see that the person was on, or because they can't see the person walk on stage.
Right.
So I think just a rehearsal, just to take care of those doubts that they had. Because once they started going, it just took a little while, and then they got into the groove of it. But just the beginning was like, ooh.
Linda said, so many factors to juggle and seems complex with the tech issues. It is complex. The other thing, too, is, I mean, this is still a fairly new thing. So anything new is going to come with a learning curve, right? She said she watched UH's public health grad online.
Oh.
The class size seemed small, so probably was less complex. They had each student have an opportunity to verbalize a short message. It was engaging, and moderator was familiar with the students, but indeed, I can't wrap my head around behind the scenes complexity. So yeah, having a moderator who's familiar with the students is so key, because that was what happened here too. Like we had the dean, or no, one of the deans.
Yeah.
She was able to recognize, like, oh, that's so and so. So if I pulled up the wrong person, she would just say their name without being like, well, no, my script says so and so, so I'm just gonna say that name, and even though it's obviously not that person. But yeah, if you're gonna allow people to say a message,
That's so cool.
that's really cool.
Who's
I don't know if you can
talking?
hear that, but our houses are so close to each other, to our neighbors, that it sounds like there's people in our house, but like in our bathroom, but that's actually just the neighbors. I don't know what they're doing or where they're at, but it sounds like they're right outside our window. Anyways, yeah, I think the other thing too was a lot of cases people just think, oh, I've been on Zoom, I've done a Zoom call before, I've handled that, and they don't actually plan or prepare for it. And then last minute, maybe they'll be like, oh my gosh, there's so much to handle. So if you can prepare, plan, troubleshoot like days, weeks in advance, that would make
Yeah.
it so much less hectic and crazy for you.
I
'Cause,
think we definitely should have had like a call with all of the speakers just to go over what to expect.
yeah, for sure. They
Yeah.
should also feel comfortable and confident in knowing like, okay, when this happens, that's when I know I'll be on. I think some of them didn't even know when they were gonna go on.
Yeah, when they
Yeah,
showed up.
yeah.
Yeah.
But all in all,
I think it's a good, like, I think definitely schools should consider doing these virtually in the future. Like, especially schools that have students that are international, like a lot of students that come here from somewhere else so their family can't all come here to be with them. Like, it can be really special to do it virtually, I think.
yeah. I mean, it looked like to me, as a student, it would be so much more fun having like this that
Yeah.
party. Like, man,
Yeah.
I when I graduated high school, that's the only graduation I was in because I didn't graduate college. But I remember just being so miserable sitting on that stage next to classmates that I didn't necessarily
Yeah.
care to sit next to. Um, and for hours,
Yeah.
I would have much rather been at home in the living room with
Yeah.
all of my friends and family and having food and drinks and balloons.
My graduation from BU sucked. It was so long, so many hours sitting in the sun. And I still remember, so we had Henry Kissinger speak and Gina Davis, and I just slept through the whole thing. And I was
Oh, it's
I was
brutal.
excited to see Gina Davis, but I couldn't stay awake because we were just sitting out in the sun the whole time, and it was just like, oh my god, it's so long.
Yeah.
And then you don't even get to walk up because the class is so big. But then for the individual college graduation, but that was still like, it was the whole day. So it was so long and brutal.
Yeah.
It
And,
would have been more fun to have balloons at my house.
and I don't know how long these programs, the program for this particular school usually run,
Yeah.
but this one was like an hour.
Yeah, it's pretty
It
fast.
was real nice and tight.
Yeah. And the speeches were good.
Yeah, I feel like because of this format of how smooth and quick and tight the program was,
Yeah.
you ran less chance of people like yourself. You know, like, I really want to listen to this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was it was really neat seeing all that. We got to even like pipe in the music and the applause and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like there's some fun things you can do to it to and I think even if you're producing it yourself, you can still do these kind of things. Just um, just know it's probably not as basic and simple as you're
As
thinking
a
it
Zoom
is.
call.
Yeah. But yeah, anything else that you wanted to share? I think those were the main things, honestly. I mean, that's a lot. I think even just as Linda was, saying like it seems like it's overwhelming and complex, and didn't mean to scare you out of doing it, but more just like, hey, be aware of this that
Yeah.
you don't have to suffer.
Because it's
Do
all workable. Like,
Yeah.
all these things are you can deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Just as long as you know about it before you start.
Yeah, for real. All right. Well, so that was, you know, that was that. Next week we are planning to. So just a review. This past week we did 3 virtual events.
Every other day.
Yeah, we did 3 virtual events. This was our last one of last week, but earlier in the week we did a virtual conference for
Mental health
mental health awareness or Mental Health America, Hawaii.
of Hawaii.
And so their CEO, Brian Talisian, who's usually on here chatting it up with us, he put on, he along with Trisha Kajimura were the ones who put together the conference and had to convert it from in-person to virtual. And we helped produce it, but we are going to have Brian on to share his experiences as far as planning it, what it was like, and the differences between virtual and in person. Some of the things that went well, some that didn't. Some of the things that others who are considering or planning virtual conferences could ask questions and glean off of his experience. So we look forward to having him on there. We look forward to reviewing his event. And if you have any questions in advance, that if you can't make it live, but you have some burning questions you'd like to ask him, send them our way. You can either throw it in the comment section here or email us at info@popcm.me.
Oh, you want that up?
No, it's okay. I don't want to add.
There it is.
Oh, there. Just email us right here, and we'll make sure to ask him there. And I told him, just because he's our guest doesn't mean that he has to lie, and like he can be brutally honest.
Oh, he's not gonna lie.
But it's not meant to be like, you can't say anything bad about us. Like, yeah, if he had problems with how we did anything or had constructive criticism, like we're that's what next week's going to be all about. So,
Linda, I will hydrate definitely. Thank you.
Maybe touch base with PCP. Oh.
At first, I thought she meant acid, but I think
me too. Because I was like, oh.
Primary care physician. I think she's suggesting that I do drugs.
Because where the pain is at the base of her back. So I thought she meant like take PCP and touch it to the base of her back where the pain is. Like, I was like,
touch base.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh.
Sorry, Linda.
We've had a long week.
We're going off of very little sleep.
Yeah.
I just finished like 2 6-packs of. Is this? Oh, it's because your face is in there. There. V8 energy drink. It's a mixture of green, black tea, veggies, and fruit. So I feel like it's healthy, but apparently it doesn't stop my brain from thinking weird things. All right, Linda, thank you so much for hanging out with us. I really enjoyed talking with you. And for the rest of you, thank you for joining us. We'll be back next week, 12:30 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time, right here on Facebook and YouTube Live for Pop Creative Media. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Bye. Did it work? Oh no, the music's not up. Wait, oh, the wrong one.